Revive fam. I want to share something with you. It's a response to a question about why should you include God in the process to meeting your spouse. Now, let me first disclose this. What I'm about to share with you is based on my personal experience. So everyone may have a different experience, but I want to share based on what I've experienced in the process. Now, if you don't know, I was previously married for 10 years. So this will be my second marriage. And I can share with you based on experience that my first marriage, I did not include God. And leading up to it, I did not include God. This second leg, this leading to the second marriage, absolutely. Based on what I learned from what I did in previous seasons, there was no way that I was going to go back through that again and not include God. And this is why I say that. So, those seasons of leading up to marriage, I got married at 29. And a couple of years prior to that is when I, dated my ex-husband. But prior to that was a time where I did date from like 18 up until 26, 27. And in that period, dating was a cycle. And when I say dating was a cycle, it was like going from person to person. Now, I'm not saying every week, every month you're jumping, but say you meet a person, you like them. You see that you have common interest, and you may talk to this person for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and then it goes nowhere. Or you may find yourself in a situation where, it's cool. You find this person, you're in a relationship with them. Maybe it's a 6-month relationship, but then it ends. Or you may even find someone where it's like, okay, you're in a relationship and it's like a year, maybe 2 years. But then out of nowhere, it's like, nah, this isn't working. When I'm saying cycles, it's like when I did not include God, I found myself in cycles where maybe it would be one person for 1 month. Maybe it would be one person I'm talking to for 6 months. Maybe it'd be a year. But it was never anything that lasted. And I don't want to digress. It did not last because there was no foundation. What do I mean? There was no foundation. So a couple of things. First of all, the foundation was jacked up. I didn't see myself the way God saw me. That was the biggest issue. I did not see myself the way God saw me. So let's think about it. When we were created, God is the one who formed us from the beginning. So everything that we're made of, all of the way we think, the way we operate, our desires come from Him. He's the one who truly knows us. He's the one who created us. He's the one who knows what we need. Well, when I was dating, I didn't include the one who knew what I really needed. My expectations were set on what I thought I needed, or what others thought would be good for me, or what the world says is what it's supposed to look like when you date someone. But I never tapped into what the real me needed. And that's because I didn't include God. And when you don't include God, you end up in these cycles where you meet one person and maybe they don't have the whole package. They have some things, and it's like, okay, well, I'll tolerate this because they bring this to the table. And you're kind of like, well, I'm not a big fan of this, but you know what? I can deal with it. And we get to a point where we're saying, I can deal with it. I can deal with it. I can deal with it because they bring this to the table. Or I can deal with it because they have this. And it's like you find yourself in a cycle of dealing with different things. And it's like, God, have you found yourself saying, is there just one person who can at least, I'm not saying they have to be perfect, but is there one person who I can say, hey, yes, this is it. But when your foundation, when you don't know how God sees you, and you have not tapped into what it is or who it is, who you are, how God sees you, when you haven't discovered that, it makes it hard to go out in the world and attempt to find someone to compliment you when you're really not clear on who you truly are, on who God says you are, on how God sees you. So it's like until I became clear of how God saw me, until I became clear of my purpose in this world. God, why did you create me? Who am I? How do you see me? It wasn't until I became clear on how He saw me that I became clear on, okay, this is what my spouse should look like. These are the desires of my heart. This is what I need in order to fulfill the purpose and the plan you have for my life. My expectations were no longer based on superficial things. It wasn't based on looks. It wasn't based on how much money the person had. Now, I'm not saying that's not important, but it's not priority. When you tap into how God sees you, and when you build relationship with God, and when you surrender and you say, God, take the lead. I'm not saying just saying, all right, God, I give this to you, bring me my spouse, but then you go and you do things your way. I mean, when you say, God, I give this to you, I give dating to you, if that's where you are. God, I give the dating process to you. Or God, I give you this process of leading me to my spouse. Show me, lead me, guide me. But you have to be intentional. You have to put in the work. You can't just say, God, lead me, and then we go back to doing our thing and our ways. So, on the other side, allowing God to lead you. When you become intentional about letting God lead you and direct you, there are some things that as you build relationship with God, He shows you about yourself. I mentioned earlier about purpose. When I gave it to God and I became intentional about saying, you know what, God, I'm not going to move if you don't give me the green light about this person. If whatever you tell me to do when it comes to getting to the place I know I want to be, when I meet my spouse, when he finds me, I want to be prepared. So prepare me in this process. And as you allow Him to prepare you in the process, there's a lot that He begins to show you about yourself. Now, for me, He showed me a lot about me in the process. He showed me about what we talk about 1 Corinthians 13 about what love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not boastful. It's not prideful. It's long suffering. There were many things that as I went down that list, I'm like, whoa. And God showed me, this is what I need to work on in you. So that when I send your spouse this next round, you will be prepared. But I'm going to take you through the process to prepare you. And I think sometimes we don't want to take the time to go through the process because it can be a wait. But think about it this way. It may be a wait, but you're guaranteed when you allow God to lead you. You are guaranteed when you're following his instructions, when you're obedient to what he's telling you to do, when you're allowing him to heal you, when you're allowing him to remove things from your life that don't belong there, when you're allowing him to align your life with the plan that he has for you, you're guaranteed to get to where you want to be. You're guaranteed to meet your spouse. So in that process, when you allow God to leave, he works on you. He prepares you. And like I said, in my process, I found that, there were things in me that I didn't realize. Even when it came to being prideful or sometimes not always listening, just wanting to do things well, this is the way it should go. And if you don't want to do it, well, you do your thing and I'll do my thing. There were things that God had to work with me on. And when you allow God to lead you, even in that process, he starts to show you who you are and how he sees you. And when you begin to develop those traits, those 1 Corinthians 13 traits, and when you begin to look back and you're like, hold on, back then, oh yeah, I was something else. I was a piece of work. And on that process, in the process, you begin to see yourself the way God sees you. So then that's when you have that foundation. It's like, okay, I get it now. I don't have like this rocky, all these rocks and pebbles and all this shaky foundation because I really don't know who I am. But now I truly know who I am. God, I know how you see me. I know who you created me to be. I know the purpose that you have for my life. So because of that, it helps me to understand what I truly desire, what it is that complements me. And when you understand that, you're willing to wait. You're willing to go through the process because you know, okay, God, that person is out there for me. I just have to be patient and wait on your timing. Because remember, God is not just working on you, but he's also working on the other person. And he's not going to bring you two together until you're both in a space where he's like, okay, just like with Adam and Eve, when God got to the point where after he created Eve and he saw that it was good, that's when he presented her to Adam. So each person has to be at a point where you're both good. So God can present you two to each other. He can connect you. But it's a process. And it takes work. You have to surrender. We talk about 2025, surrender to soar. Even when it comes to getting to your spouse, you have to say, God, I surrender this part of my life to you, to direct me, to guide me, to lead me. I relinquish this to you. And as you give me instructions, as you tell me what to do, as you lead me, I will be obedient to your instructions. So, including God, it guarantees you to get to your spouse. That's why. That's why you should include God. Because when you follow his instructions and you're obedient to what he tells you to do, you get God results. When you're doing things your way, you may get good results, but it's not God results. And God's results brings fulfillment, the desires of your heart. And another thing, before we end, when we talk about why include God, to touch on seeing yourself the way God sees you and understand it as you build relationship with him, as you're spending time with God, as you're listening to God, as you're talking to God, as you're reading your word, you're gaining an understanding of who you are and why he created you to be here on this earth. What is it that he placed you here on this earth to do? And think about it. When you understand that, it also helps you to better understand the type of person that compliments you. You're not just looking at, well, what they look like on the outside, or what can they bring to the table, how much money they have. But you're looking at, your priority becomes, okay, God, how does this complement what you've created me to do on this earth? The purpose that you've given me, the assignments you've given me. How does this person complement my purpose? So your whole foundation changes. Your whole foundation becomes solid because it's built on God. It's not built on superficial. It's not built on finances. It's not built on, oh, well, we look good together. But your relationship, your marriage will be built, and the foundation will be built on God. And when you know that he's brought you together, it makes a big difference because you're going to fight for it. Because you know, this isn't something that I just pulled together myself, but we each took the time. We invested time into this. So we're not just going to let it go like that. And when things do happen, we know who to go to because he's the one that put us together. When you talk about longevity and not cycles, doing it God's way when it comes to marriage brings longevity. Not saying, again, that there won't be issues, but when you do have issues, you'll know your foundation and you'll know who to go to. When you don't include God, there is no foundation, which makes it easier to walk away, which makes it easier for the relationships to fall. Because there's no foundation. So, to answer the question, why should I include God? Including God is a choice. He doesn't force you. He doesn't force you to say, hey, you better put me in this process. But if you're looking for God results, when we say, I'm waiting on God, God, show me my spouse. When you say it, do you really believe it? I mean, do you really mean it? I know we believe it, that God can do it. But when you say, God, show me my spouse. God, just send me a man after your own heart. Or fellas, God, send me the woman you have for me. When we say that, we also have to understand that we also have to do work on our part. We have to put in work so that God can prepare us for that person. Just like we want that person to be prepared so that when they come to us, it's like, okay, they're meeting the desires of our hearts. It's not just about someone coming to us. It's about how are we stepping when we come to them? Have we gone through the process? Have we allowed God to Show us things that we needed to kind of do some fine tuning on. Have we gone through the process of allowing God to pull all that old stuff out of our heart? Have we allowed God to change our mindset? Are we able to trust again? So, including God in the process, it's a choice. But if you want God results, you include him in the process. So I just wanted to respond. Again, this is based off my personal experience. And to say, just to share now, I'm still in a season where I am waiting for God to connect me to my spouse. And it's been a long process. It's been about 7 years since I've been divorced. But I will share this really quickly. In the 7 years, God told me, I had specific instructions from him: no dating. No dating. When I say it takes action, you have to be intentional. God may require sacrifice. There may be things that he asks you to do in this process and you're like, hold on, but I'm not used to that. It takes sacrifice. So in 7 years, now, when he said that, I was a little taken off. I'm like, you mean I can't even go out? I can't even. And he's like, no dating. It's just me and you. I have to work on you. No dating. So I'll share a quick story. I remember there was a time when I did meet an individual, very nice guy. And we started to become friends. And we would talk on the phone. I mean, he would call me all the time. He would, like come to my house and hung up my TV and just great guy. And, I'm like, God, whoa, what is this? I remember laying in my bed one night and I'm like, this guy is great. I mean, he checked off all the boxes. And I'm like, this guy is great. I'm like, but God, what is going on? And God, I'm laying in the bed at night. It's like pitch black in my room. And he's like, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? I told you no dating. And I had to let it go. As good as it was, I had to let it go. And that was like that was like 4 years ago. About 4 years ago. I had to let it go. And when I say, again, when we talk about a choice, it was a choice. Now, I could have continued to see this person, but that wasn't the instructions that God gave me. And had I continued to see this person, I would have gone back to doing things my way, not God's way. But again, when you're looking for God results, you have to do it God's way. Now, I'm not saying it would have been bad had I continued to talk to this person. But again, the difference between good and God, there's a big difference. And when you decide that you want God's best, you have to be obedient, even when it comes to times where you like, I really don't want to, I don't want to let this go. Because I was at the point. I mean, this guy was just always there. If I needed something, and this was when I first moved to Texas. If I needed something, he's like, hey, I'll be there. Don't worry about it. I got you. And it felt good to have. And it was very refreshing to have. To have someone that was like there, that was like, you know what, don't worry about it. I got you. Don't worry about what you need. And I'm like, wow, But again, that wasn't for me. So I had to be obedient and follow God's instructions and let it go. So I just wanted to share this with you based on the question that I was asked. Why do it God's way? This is why you do it God's way. If you want God's results, you include Him. If you want good results, do it your way. So family, I hope that this short informational session, this short chat has been helpful. I love you all. And again, if you have any questions or, you want to share something, you're like, hey, I was thinking about this and, what are your thoughts on this? What is your experience? Go ahead and send questions to our Revive Ministries email address. And I'm trying to start doing more in 2025 when it comes to just sharing more videos that we can use in our everyday life, that we can use to apply to our everyday situations, because many of us go through we go through things when it comes to relationships, through life, whatever. We go through things, and it can be helpful to have a godly perspective, even from having a perspective of someone who's actually gone through it. So if you have questions or you just want to know some thoughts, or, hey, have you ever, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and email our Revive Ministries email address and share your questions. And what we're trying to do at least once a month to share, go through questions and share responses with you. So I hope this has been helpful. I love you all. And until our next chat for the week, be blessed.